I rewatched Mad Men, which is now a 20-year-old TV series about an advertising agency in the 1960s. As I was watching, this huge, extensive machine of advertising and what it takes to get your message to the masses, I was struck by how deceptively easy it is to do that exact same thing today. We can show up in front of the masses on a device like this. So the machine to get you in front of an audience has been made easy and automatic. But crafting the message that connects with an audience, that gets them to feel something, that's something that no machine can replace. Only humans can. So I think this is where the crux of our conversation is going to be today. Your voice, not just what you say, but how you say it, can have a huge impact on connecting with an audience. But it's not about counting ums. It's not even about, making sure that you're being aware of the uptick or the downtick. It's a whole other approach. And oh my goodness, I'm getting so ahead of myself. So my guest today is Renee Bisson, a professional, versatile voice actor who's voiced for Crisco, Greenpeace, Thomson Reuters, and many others. She loves bringing stories to life by becoming the friendly, inspiring, nurturing, authoritative, or inspiring tone you need. And she is here today to share how she does it and how we can do it too. Welcome, Renee.
Hi, Tara. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super thrilled to be here.
Oh, me too. So let's start with learning more about you. How did you get into voice work?
Yeah, so that's such a good question. Actually, I get asked that all the time. So the long and short of it is, I grew up in a very corporate background. My parents were super corporate people, and doing something creative kind of wasn't on the table. It was kind of thought of you're going to be this starving artist. So I went into accounting, and I've always loved people. So long and short, I ran my own accounting firm for a long time, but that creative part of me has always been gnawing from within. So I took vocal lessons and piano lessons and actually started performing musically and fell in love with that whole other thing. So then I got into collaborating with other musicians and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so I was had some downtime due to some health reasons. And as I was kind of coming back, a friend of mine said, it would be amazing if you could do something with your voice. And I thought, yeah, it would be, but I'm green. I really don't know how I would even get into that. But long and short of it, a few colleagues, once I kind of put out there that I would like to do that, oh my goodness, a friend of mine, turned out she owned an animation studio. And so she worked with me. Another family friend is a voice actor. And so through her, I was able to get some contacts and get some training and get my feet wet. And so once I knew I had that support to get started, oh my goodness, that's all I needed. And so here I am, and it's been awesome.
Oh, amazing. I love how many pieces of your story they don't necessarily, when you first listen to it, it's well, those pieces don't fit. You're corporate, then you're in music, and now you're doing this voice work. But I know, the media world so well that I'm of course these things all fit together. That creative urge, when it finds you, it does not leave you. It is that stalker boyfriend who just doesn't, you have to answer it when it calls. And I find I had this experience too. I'm on the other side of things, being in the creative space. Yes. When I went to business, I was well, I'm not corporate. There's no way that this idea that creativity and corporate don't connect. But once you kind of cross that bridge, you realize, oh no, actually business is quite creative. Creativity is just this more playful, open, almost spiritual expression that corporations need. I mean, I'm looking at your intro again. Mm-hmm. You voiced a lot of major brands who need the human voice behind it. And again, listen to your voice. I'm of course you got into voice work. I mean, it's so warm and soothing, but it's also just the performance of it and the importance of the feeling and the connection. These are just things that, over the holidays, there was the AI generated Coca-Cola commercial. And then there's the fact that I can't remember one of the shoe companies is either Reebok, Adidas, or Nike. I can't remember which one. They also came up with an AI generated ad. And I'm the fact that I can't distinguish which brand has that commercial should speak to how AI maybe isn't the saving grace that we think it is. Because I think there are just certain things that exploring this push from without, and how you can use it in this new space is why they all work together. I'm getting a little bit too abstract. So let's get into the actual conversation, because I think
that's a we'll come back and do that one.
Part two of this conversation.
Right.
But I think they're still somehow connected. So we'll get to that at some point in the course of this conversation, because I think, especially with the emphasis on video, so much of my work up until this point has been on, lighting and camera angles and looking at the camera. But your voice and how you use your voice, that really is where you're connecting with the human. It's the human voice and our inflection and all the nonverbal communication that actually comes with how we use our voice. So with your work, and because you're now like a professionally trained voice actor, what are some common mistakes that people make when they're speaking?
Yeah. So honestly, the biggest common mistake is focusing too much on ourselves. Like, oh my goodness, like, is this presentation going to be good? Like, how do I look? How is it going to be effective? Have I prepared enough? What if they ask me something I don't know? What if I forget? But, and so when those thoughts flood our minds, then we come out of being our natural self, because now we're stiff, we're distracted, you know what I mean? I mean, I remember, I'll tell you a quick story, less than 60 seconds. My grandmother, she's over 100. And so during COVID, obviously at that age, she's got a little dementia. So during COVID, when her care workers would come in the house, the first thing she would say to them, she's very sweet dementia patient, very lovely lady. She would say to them, listen, take off that mask for me. Why? Because nobody wants to be spoken to from behind a mask, Tara. We all want to see who is that natural person we're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, the biggest mistake people make is not being themselves. Once you're yourself, you can convince your audience that, you know what you're talking about. You're believable, you're unaffected, and you come across that way. So that's the biggest thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like we could spend the entire conversation talking about this internal dialogue, because the work that I do, especially in the on-camera confidence workshop, when I coach speakers, I don't allow them to use scripts. We focus more.
I've seen that on your other podcasts.
So, and I think the reason behind that is it is strategic, because it is about controlling, it's the inner dialogue, but it's also just how your brain grabs words and delivers them, which is the simplest way that I can explain this very esoteric process. It's what I learned when I worked in media. So when I was in print journalism, I would write these very long, elaborate, but beautiful word paintings of sentences. When you're writing those long sentences, you know that the reader can be aided with punctuation. They can go back and reread what you have to say. So you kind of let yourself go in that more abstract space. When you're speaking, though, it's a totally different discipline, because the listener they're hearing the words in real time. So it's about practicing slowing down, understanding where they are. And I think especially with a lot of business owners, because sales is on the end of this conversation, they're so concerned with this idea, like, this presentation, this perfect presentation, this perfect copy, it's going to be the one thing that generates $1 million of sales. So to me, when you're in that headspace, you're now trying to control the message. So even if you are, ad-libbing and making things up, or kind of coming up with something on the fly, if you still have that intention of, well, what am I going to get from this exchange? That also changes the energy of what you talk about and what you deliver.
100%.
Yeah. Like, can I pick your brain too from some of your training?
Sure.
In terms of writing a script, because there are some clients where no matter how hard I say, like, don't write a script, you're so much more natural when writing a script. There is a comfort level of writing at least something. Having a note, having some, the intro, for example, was something that was written. So what are some ways, because the written word, it is still, because the way I always describe it is, if you're reading text, it changes the energy of what you're talking, because you're in your head, you're not in your body.
Hmm.
What are some ways if people are, if they're not fully ready to go into the ad lib space, but they're still reading some scripts, what are some ways that people can make like script reading feel at least authentic?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And one thing that I think is golden, especially in the case of like a business owner, because a business owner, it's not necessarily like voiceover work where you're following the writing of someone else. You are the message. So with that, you've got a ton of freedom, right? So you want to focus on ideas and concepts, not words.
Mhm.
So one thing that can be like initially, yeah, you're going to write your words so you kind of get the flow of what you want to say. But one thing that works is sort of if you can sketch out little pictures that tip you off in your head. What is the idea that
Mm.
I'm trying to convey? So that way you're not focused on I have to say the exact same thing every time. No, you're
Yeah.
conveying the thought, the idea, the concept. And so
Mhm.
with that, then you can be more natural. And obviously, you've got to practice, right? You go through it a few times till you're comfortable.
Yeah. Practice, but I think practice and holding on to the idea are key, because it's not about memorizing a script that you
That's
then
right.
deliver robotically. Because I think this is again, it's the nonverbal communication that people are coming, which I think, look, let me regroup. I feel like I'm an example of what I want to ask you. Letting go of perfection, right? So this
Mhm.
idea that that everything you say is going to be perfect every single time. So how was that something that you had to learn how to deal with?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like in the beginning, like when you start, like it's kind of natural to worry about how I'm coming across.
Yeah.
But one thing like I've learned, like with speaking or with acting or just in life, one thing I've learned over the years is the more I lean into my natural self,
Mhm.
the more people actually relate to me.
Mm,
And you know this, Tara, I don't have to tell you this. Like in business, it's that know, like, and trust factor.
mm,
We actually make business decisions from an emotional standpoint. For instance, in voice coaching, they will tell us you're not selling that comfort food. You're
mm.
selling the feeling that people get when they go on their couch to cuddle up and watch their favorite movie and consume that comfort food.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's we make buying decisions really from an emotion. So the whole thing is we want to stir emotion. We want people to tap into their own emotion. And
Mm.
so with that, we want to be as natural as possible.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, yeah, yeah, feeling more comfortable with yourself is a different attitude than being perfect. Because I think
Exactly.
perfection. I'm thinking back to your grandmother. Like perfection is the mask. Perfection is the layer. It's all these barriers that you're putting between yourself and your client and your customer, thinking that you're doing the right thing. Because I think too, the more that we feel like when the idea is perfect, this idea of like a perfect copy or a perfect script. When people are like, oh, my website's just about ready to go, but I'm rewriting the copy. I'm like, you can rewrite the copy after you publish your website. Like, I rewrite my copy all the time. I also say, like, as an individual, if you are the face of your business, you are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
You're not done, so your copy is not done, your story is not done, your branding isn't done. It's always working, and I think that's where your suggestion of just having the concept. What is the concept of your brand and your business, and then let that kind of show up and execute and manifest in a bunch of different ways.
Hmm.
Can
Hmm.
I ask you about, because I feel like with your work, you're speaking to, I'm thinking, picturing you like in a voiceover booth
Right.
where you're speaking to people in an abstract way, but you're also a professional speaker. So how do you then control the energy and tone of your speech when you're speaking to people who are in the room, but they're in the room en masse?
Yeah, a good question. How do you control the energy of people that are in the room en masse? Again, it's really about connecting with them and thinking about the audience.
Mm,
Here's the thing. Obviously, the fact that I've been asked to speak, I must know something, right? So I don't have to so much worry about, oh my goodness, being perfect. The fact is, I'm a little bit of an authority figure because I'm asked to speak. So with that, I'm thinking about the fact that my audience wants to hear the message. They're there to
mm,
hear the message, and I've got something that can help them. So I'm thinking about how I can help them. And
mhm.
so eye contact is one thing that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Enthusiasm, Tara, is huge because enthusiasm is contagious. If I'm enthusiastic or passionate about my message, that can rub off. It can potentially motivate my listener to even act, to
Yeah,
do something, you know, that
absolutely.
warmth, or speaking in a way that conveys the idea that I want to portray. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, obviously if it's something sad, if it's you, but whatever it is, that emotion
Mm-hmm.
um, also stirs the hearts of the audience, the
Yeah.
listener.
I think that comes back to that internal dialogue too. Like when you're
Yeah.
in that position of, I'm on the stage, I'm commanding a room. You command it not with the controlled performance that is delivered perfectly, because the audience, they have no idea what you plan on saying. They don't know if you messed up your line or you got the order of your story wrong. But it's about commanding it because you are allowing yourself to connect fully with the feeling and the emotion of what you're delivering. That's was when I practice my own speeches, I always make sure to connect with the feeling. How does this story make me feel, and what do I want the audience to feel? But you, as allowing yourself to feel emotions when you're speaking, that communicates a lot more than this perfect message.
Oh,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Well, clearly we could talk about this all day long. I love, and I think too, the less technical, the more psychological people understand about what it really takes to be an authentic speaker, the better they're going to understand how to kind of connect more authentically and naturally. I feel like I'm on a mission to just fill the digital space with more authentic conversations and ideas, and less, controlled messaging, because
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for.
Exactly. And like, we talked a little bit before we came on about exercise. This is absolutely, sometimes, we're revved up with adrenaline when we're about to perform or go on stage or give a speech. You can actually, pump some iron, run a little bit, get some of that energy out, or do some breathing exercises to relax, do a little bit of both. There are those exercises, but the one thing that I really want to convey, and if, people remember nothing from mine and your conversation here today, is just really less focus on self, more focus on helping the audience, and then your speech will just be natural.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think that that's such a great way to end this too, with that exercise, because that's the ongoing work in between speaking appearances. You can control your energy. You're absolutely right. You can control your energy, and that point is just nerves. But
Hmm.
that's different from the presence and what you are going to bring to the performance. That is the more you know yourself, and the more that you know and connect to the message and how it's going to serve others and not serve your own needs, the
Right.
better quality message you're going to get. Well, this is fantastic. We'll have to do this again and go deeper on
Yeah.
more spiritual stuff. Where can people find you to learn more from you about speaking and presentations?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at Renee Voiceover. So that's my Instagram handle. My work is available on my website at voiceactor.com/site/Renee Voiceover. And also I'm on LinkedIn at Renee Besson.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Renee. This is such a fabulous way to kick off the year. And let's keep talking with
Absolutely.
authenticity.
Yeah, I'm so glad I was able to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Tara.